This is the Final Word Cricket podcast, the last episode of season 18. I just unilaterally decided, Jeff, we're going to do one more episode of season 18, for it is still September and it is still the cricket season here, at least for me. It's the 29th of September to be precise. Our show is brought to you by Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, proudly in association with us for this season and the next one, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. We have plenty coming up in this show. The England Ashes squad has been announced. We have the Women's World Cup starting tomorrow, which is most significant, with daily shows coming your way. The end of the county championship season. USA cricket in trouble again. Ashwin's coming to Australia. You heard it speculated upon first on the Final Word or something like that. India are playing test cricket this week. Nepal have beat the West Indies. Australia are playing unofficial test matches. There's lots. It's another busy, taxing week in global cricket. We're going to try and give you all of the protein, the bits that you need to know. And the first thing I'll start with, though, is commiserations to Jeff. I'm in some respects glad you didn't return to Melbourne over the weekend, for that is one of the more remarkable 20-minute passages of footy I've ever seen, as Brisbane kicked away unexpectedly against the flow of play, all the rest of it. And Geelong did not win the flag. Jeff, how are you feeling? How did you take it in?
I'm pretty hollow. I was extremely relieved I didn't go, because the 40-hour trip on the way there you can cop, but the 40-hour trip on the way back after you've just had the shit kicked out of you would have to be the longest trip in football, as they say. It's one of those things. It just reinforces how hard it is to win premierships and how why it is such a big deal when it happens, because a bad quarter can be the difference. A bad quarter anywhere in a final series can be the difference, even if your team's fancied. So it reminds me of why I like cricket, because I don't care who wins any of the matches, and I don't then feel emotionally distraught for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it felt like it was going to happen all day, even when scores were level. It was like nothing felt right for Geelong the way they were playing that day, and Brisbane just felt like they were bubbling and ready to boil over, and eventually that boiling over happened. Yeah,
that's a better way of describing it than how I did before, about it wasn't against the flow of play necessarily. It's just that I just felt like Geelong, with all of their experience and so on, would have just found a way to have that 20-minute period. Yeah. And just at the moment, I thought they were going to have that 20-minute burst, a bit like they did against Hawthorn after halftime last week. That's when Brisbane had theirs instead, and it was an extraordinary thing to observe. I was in that bowling alley in Bloomsbury, as I always am, with a few teammates, a few Final Word people, a few friends of the pod as well, and I don't think anyone could quite believe what they were seeing. But there you go. That's back-to-back flags for the Lions.
Yeah, it's the first 3 goals in the burst that do it, and then basically you see the Geelong players go, "Oh God, we're fucked," and then the next 7 goals get kicked once the game's already decided effectively. But that's football. That's why people are so invested in it, because you can have a great season, but you still got to get through knockouts. It's a brutal, difficult thing to do. As is, I don't know, how can I segue? As is writing a book sometimes. Although the book that we've written was relatively fun. It's relatively light. It's not as long as some. We've been having all the meetings about distribution and when it's coming out, late November release. So it'll be available for Christmas, for giving to somebody who wants a light read. If they want something they can take into the toilet and sit there and have 22 different stories. That's 22 toilet breaks. That's almost a month worth of time on the can. If you're a once a day regular, that could be what the gift you give somebody is regularity.
I'm going to try and spin it a different way than take it to the Jets. But no, it's the kind of book that I reckon first of all, get it on your Christmas lists, because it'll be out in November. So you'll have plenty of time to buy it for your cricket loving uncle. But also, I mean, it's anyone who's enjoyed the stories we've told over time. They're told in more depth through the book. So there'll be extra detail and tales that we've touched on but haven't done justice to. The book well and truly does that. So get ready.
That was the most enjoyable part, was going back through some of those stories and going, let's re-research and let's go to another level of complexity there.
And I love all the sort of, selling it in and the media stuff. So it's going to be fun. We're going to be busy boys doing the rounds on Media Street, I guess, when the book does get out there in the public domain, which we can't wait. So that's all ahead of us. As we nearly finished cricket season here, I've got 2 more games here. I'm playing with Anakshi again. I mentioned last week that Anakshi bowled beautifully in the media game. We've got another media game today against the ECB. So nearly there, season nearly over. We went straight from the grand final, straight to a game on Saturday, which went to the bitter end, a 90-over day where over 500 runs were scored in sort of late September. I mean, what a glorious privilege to be able to play this deep into the year and have a perfect day for it out there at Sheen Park. So yeah, it was. We didn't win. We didn't lose either, but it was just like a really nice draw. We made 300 and a bit and declared, and we had 49 overs to bowl them out in a declaration game. So we batted for 41 and we didn't get it done. Well, let's be honest, I didn't get it done. I felt that.
Did you get any?
Got 3, but
okay.
But they managed to bat out 49 overs to draw it, and they were 9 down at the end. And I sort of felt like, all those times, Jeff, we've seen Nathan Lyon not quite bowl a team out on the final day, and he just looks desolate afterwards.
Yep.
I'm not comparing this to Test cricket. However, I will put myself in Nathan Lyon's shoes. On Saturday night, I did feel the same way. I'm like, people expect the spinner. I bowled 16 overs on the trot at the end. So people expect the spinner to bowl the team out at the end. Things just didn't break my way. Didn't have the luck you like to have at the end, and they managed to play me pretty well. And good luck to them to getting to the draw finish line. But it was great. I was gutted, but it was great.
16 overs might be what he bowls in a session before backing it up with 2 more sessions. But
that's right. That's right. The final day, Lions bowled all day, and I've bowled bowled for a couple of hours. But still, it was 2 games to go, and that's why I decided.
Where are you
I'll need 4 to get to the 100.
Need 4 from 2 games. Okay.
Yeah, if there's no rain. It's nice today, so we'll play this afternoon. Sunday feels a bit more sketchy. But, we live in hope. We'll see. We'll find out. If we don't, it doesn't matter.
Women's World Cup begins tomorrow. This is going to be a massive month. It's going to be a big month for cricket. It's going to be a big month for us. We're doing daily shows, so we've got a match every day, except for I think one day when there's a double header where we'll do that in one episode, which seems the sensible way to do it. But we'll have a daily ep every day over the entirety of October and just into the start of November, as well as the regular programming. So limber up, do your early seasons and stretching. All those people who are saying, "Oh, it's going to be a big summer with the Ashes." No. It's a big season starting now. Starting. Yeah. So I think the first World Cup episode will be the first episode of the next season. That makes sense to do it that way. But England beat Australia in their warm-up game, which is interesting. Ran down 250-ish. It was a faffing around sort of game. Australia were trying different batting orders. Beth Mooney came in at number 9, for instance. Phoebe Litchfield looked good up the top. Was absolutely blazing for a while. But anyway, at least doesn't matter how it happens. It's heartening for England to go at least in the warm-ups, at least in the Wizard Cup of the Women's World Cup, you're able to get one done. Yeah,
Jason Heatley's kicked goals. They've won the night grand final. I would say that the most significant part, Sarah Glenn taking a fifer. So she's into the, it's not the tournament, but a fifer against Australia, even in a friendly, and it does feel it was quite friendly based on the scorecards I read.
Yeah, Harry Kewell scored one from the halfway line.
But a fifer's a fifer against Australia. And Capsia making 88 not outs, not for nothing either. I think a young player, and Dunkley a half century. So there are things to take from it for England. Don't think it really matters an awful lot for Australia. India beat New Zealand in Bangalore in their warm-up game. A half century for Harmanpreet Kaur, half century for Sophie Devine. So we could be talking about the 2009 World Cup, but we're talking about the 2025 World Cup. Speaks to their remarkable longevity, the captains of India and New Zealand, respectively. India play the first game of the tournament. They're hosting Sri Lanka, so the co-hosts, they're up against each other. And then Australia's first game's against Sri Lanka on Wednesday. I'm actually very excited about this. I mean, not to be surprised. I'm actually very surprised, but excited rather. But we're at our best when we're in the groove on daily shows, Jeff. I like when they're coming thick and fast, and we've got our ensemble cast, you, me, got Norcross in India. We've got Firdaus Munda, who's been great friend of the show, the leading cricket writer in South Africa for a really long time. She'll be one of our co-hosts through the tournament. Andrew Fidel Fernando, who'll be covering the competition in Sri Lanka. Cam Ponsonby, who's been part of our team for a long time. And Ben Jones, who'll be doing some eps from here and some eps from over there in India, where he's covering the latter stages of the tournament. So we will be well represented every single day of the Women's World Cup. And Jeff, drum roll, announcement. You take it away. We've got a really exciting partner to bring on board, and we're really chuffed about this.
And I think a company we've wanted to work with for a while, because they do things that we actually believe in and back and have done since before we got involved. So Lacuna Sports is the company that looked at the market for women's sporting kit and apparel and said that, particularly in cricket, women and girls don't have access to the right kind of kit. And we've talked about this on the show before. We've done interviews on this theme on the show before, that it's one of the big barriers, particularly for girls, not so much getting into sport, but staying in sport, particularly as they reach teenage years and so on. And they're having to use boys' kit and men's kit, and it doesn't fit, and it's not appropriate. And there are all of these reasons why it doesn't work, but nobody was offering the alternatives. And we've seen a lot of professional women's players talk about this in their path up through the game and how much of a barrier that was. So Lacuna was the company that went, okay, we're going to change this. We're going to address this and tailor kit, make kit especially for women and girls, and listen to what they want, what they need, and make sure that they get what they want on the field. So it's a beautiful fit to have them come on and be involved with us through the Women's World Cup. And we're very happy and proud to be able to promote what they do.
It's one of those things that used to come up all the time in the early days when I covered women's cricket, that they used to use basically hand-me-down men's kit, like, the smaller sizes and that type of thing.
Yep.
And, Lee Burns, who's the founder of Lacuna, she's been great to work with already. And I had a bit to do with Lacuna when I was out doing those fair break tournaments a couple of years ago when they kitted out the fair break teams. But yeah, Lee's daughter was playing cricket. She was a passionate player and then had no choice but to wear the men's kit. And Lee kind of realised there's something not right here. There's a disconnect in the growth of the women's game, but they're not having a lot of players not having the appropriate kit. So, recognising there are real needs for women that aren't quite the same as men or boys, meticulously crafted kit. So we'll tell you all about it all the way through. Just today I wanted to simply say that they will be part of every show we make through the month of October, but especially those World Cup episodes from India and Sri Lanka. It's one of those ones that's absolutely perfect for us. We can't wait to tell you more about them and hopefully get more women and more girls wearing Lacuna kit around not only the UK, but around the cricketing world.
Let's talk Ashes, because we also have to talk Ashes every week for the next couple of months, or we will be arrested and we'll be put in cricket jail. But timing doesn't always work out so well for us on the weekly show. So we just finished recording the weekly show and about 10 minutes later you went, England Ashes squad just got announced. We're like, well, that would have been useful 2 hours earlier.
Indeed.
However, everybody else has had their say. And I like this sometimes. You let the traffic go by and then you look around and you find an option. You've got a bit of clarity and we can sit back and say, everyone's had their say. Now we can see if we say exactly the same things a week later or if we've had a bit more time to think about it. So the 16, there's the squad. We know there'll be the Lions team out there, so there'll be other players they can pick from. It's not absolutely dead set that these are the only players who will be involved. But first thoughts, first impressions, go on.
Well, not really first thoughts anymore, are they? Because I've sort of watched the Rob Key press conference. I went into that the other day and sort of took in his perspective, and others who are close to the camp have spoken to media since. But yeah, group of 16, as you might anticipate. Sort of the main talking points at the time were that England have only picked one specialist spinner, Ashar Bashir, who's of course had that finger injury during the England-India series. So he'll come off not cold necessarily, but, he didn't play the second half of that test series. And he wasn't going especially well either, it should be noted. So they've wanted to back in Bashir from the get-go. I do wonder, though, I wonder a few things. First of all, is he the sole spinner because they didn't want to get in his head by picking other spinners? Did they not want to, because the easy thing to have done would have been, well, there are a number of great choices there. Liam Dawson, who replaced him against India, he's not in the squad. Jack Leach, who's had another great season for Somerset and finished like an absolute train at the end in great nick. Been to Australia before. Got the profile of somebody who should do better in Australia, moves the ball away from the bat and had the experience of bowling in Australia. He's not been selected. Rayan Ahmed, who's had a massive season with bat and ball for Leicestershire, having won Division 2. And of course, he's experienced England dressing rooms in the last few years and a bit of a prodigy. He's not been selected. So I reckon sort of two of them might end up in the Lions squad, in the mirroring squad, who are going out as well. But they're kind of saying to Bashir, no, you are our guy, you are our guy. However, you scratch a little bit deeper. Will Jacks being there, that Rob Key answer on Will Jacks suggests that they are well and truly open-minded to the idea of playing all quicks as specialist bowlers, 4 of them, and having Jacks as almost like a swing option to be a lower middle order all-rounder. Could theoretically be there for Ben Stokes if Ben Stokes doesn't play, an aggressive lower order batter who can bowl some spin, and they don't have to compromise on the quicks they want to take. Key was very assertive, saying it's your fast bowlers who win your series in Australia. So they're very clear about their plan.
Is it Nathan Lyon consistently takes 30-odd wickets in Ashes tours. But
in Australia, though, I think it's a fair point, though. The win, not to say you don't discount the importance of a spinner in the wider ensemble, but to win the series, it's going to hinge on whether their fast bowlers can take the majority of the 20 wickets a match and whether their batters can stand up to the tests against 3 all-timers plus Nathan Lyon, provided they're all fit. So, yeah, he wasn't sort of saying that, Bashir is plan A. It was more that Bashir, he will be their primary spinner if they go with one spinner at any stage. I think that's more the nuance there.
Yeah, I mean, but for all of the we're going to back him and he's our one guy, is he still your one guy if he gets Monty Panesard at Perth in week 1? If he's done for 150?
Well, I don't think he'll play. I'd be surprised if he played at the start. It's kind of my point. Because we don't think, if you sort of draw it out and think about where Ben Stokes fits into all of this, if Stokes, for whatever reason, couldn't play week 1, and it's going to be Harry Brook captaining, then Will Jack slotting in for Stokes.
Isn't that where Bethel's supposed to play, though? Isn't Bethel the hitting player who can bowl some spin?
Well, look at what they've done with the vice captaincy, though. So Ollie Pope's been discharged of his vice captaincy responsibilities, which opens England up to playing Bethel at 3, as they did in New Zealand, and he did quite well, of course, in New Zealand on Test debut late last year. So I can see a world where, let's pretend Stokes doesn't play for the purpose of this hypothetical, where Brook, the new vice captain, is acting captain at 5, Bethel's at 3, Pope doesn't play, and Jax is at 6. I can see that happening. I can see a world where, absent Stokes at the start, and again, that's a massive assumption, but if they do want to have that extra fast bowling option, remembering that Stokes typically is a fast bowling option when he's available in recent times. He bowled beautifully during the summer. I don't think they're going to want to trade off on that. They're going to want to have as many legitimately dangerous options with the ball, the faster bowlers as they can, I think. That's how I read it anyway.
Wouldn't you be better off as a team, if Stokes is missing, to have Pope in the side with one of Bethel or Jax, rather than to have both of them and not have Ollie Pope, given that he has captained England before, he's experienced, he's someone who, you go, well, Brooks the leader for the future, so you're going to let him have the crack at it now, but wouldn't he be better to have somebody who has done the job to fall back on the field rather than to have a couple of spinning all-rounders? I mean,
fair point. The wider point there is, like, where does Ollie Pope fit in all of this?
Yeah.
Is he in the first 11?
I think he should be. I think he should be playing.
Well, Key's very, again, it's like we know who the top 6 are in all spots bar 3. Well, we know who's opening. We know who's 4. We know who's 5. We know who ideally is 6 for England, obviously the captain. But 3 is the one spot they're not willing to completely nail down yet, and they're willing to give themselves some more flexibility. Bethel is going to New Zealand in this white ball tour. It should mean absolutely nothing, but if he gets on a tear over there, that might be enough. That might be enough. Even with the experience that you refer to with Pope, it still might be enough, because they want him. Clearly, they want Bethel in the team.
Will Jax is the most bonkers kind of Stokes McCullum pick. Like, you look at his record as a bowler, first class cricket, 49 wickets from 57 matches, so not even a wicket per match at a first class level, averaging 42. List A cricket, 17 wickets from 43 matches, averaging 45. And T20 cricket, where he's known as a T20 bowler, he's still 80 wickets from 240 matches. He's bowled in fewer than half of his matches, so less than half the time has a team even said, we need an over from you. And that's the guy they're picking as their spinner, as their where we're turning.
It's not quite as simple. Yeah, it's not quite as simple as that. So the way they would explain it, and look, I watched him all the way through 2022 when he was Surrey's primary spinner. He wasn't bowling a lot of overs. He was doing a pretty good job of the hold up and end role. That's why Surrey didn't need a spinner in the first of their 3-peat, because Jax was perfectly credible. And that's what got him on that test tour in the end of 22. Took a 6-for on test debut in Pakistan, as I think possibly the 3rd spinner in that team. I can't remember how they set it up. But it was
second innings, and
second or third.
And those are the only wickets he's taken in tests.
Sure. But I guess my point is that they won't be playing Jax at 6 to be the spinner, air quotes. They'll be playing Jax at 6 and asking him to bowl some overs to help relieve their quicks. He won't be going in there. That'll be where they've made the decision. They're not going in with a primary spinner. They're going in with someone.
At some point, you still need the
ball
option.
a rip. Yeah, and I think they'll be comfortable with him playing the holding up and end role, as opposed to the, let's say, the Graham Swan role, where Graham Swan was a strike bowler.
Yeah.
That slight distinction between what's a strike bowler versus who's a bowler who we can rely upon to break it up a little bit if we need to kill 8 overs on a very hot day.
It feels piss takey to me, and it feels too clever, trying to give themselves those options without actually giving themselves a genuine option. I think you want that variety in an attack to have a proper spinner. Maybe they're saying, well, sure, Joe Root can bowl some overs, and maybe you pick up a couple here or there. But the rest of the side, Crawley and Duckett, I'm super invested in seeing how Zach Crawley goes. I have this theory, which may be completely, which I've mentioned before, and the data may not bear this out at all. It might be completely destroyed by someone who wants to look up the numbers. But I just feel in my bones that he's more likely to make runs when the bowling's faster and better. When he's facing high quality fast bowling, it seems to work for him sometimes, and maybe he just wins a test. Maybe he wins one test himself.
I think pace. I think we saw in 2023 when it's hard and flat and quick, all good. The issue is going to be if the pitches are more along the lines of what we've seen in Australia in the last 3 years. That's a different proposition, and that's where Crawley's vulnerable. So that'll be fascinating how he fares. Duckett has been one of the inform, if not the inform, I suppose with Jaiswal in world cricket in the last couple of years. The Pope Bethel question. Root at 4. I loved Root's response when he spoke to the media the other day. He was asked immediately about making hundreds in Australia. He's like, no, like you're missing the point here. I want to go and win in Australia. If I make hundreds, all the better. But don't get fixated on what I'm doing personally. Let's get, let's get focused on the team at large. And you know how much it would mean to him to post 3 figures in Australia privately, that it would be impossible for him to not be thinking in those terms a little bit.
Yes. But he would prefer to just not get pumped again, given that he's been out there a bunch of times in horrible.
Well, let's go through it. He was dropped in 13-14.
Yep, which was 5-0.
17-18, he captained a side that lost 4-0. And again in 21-22 in a horrible
4-0
series for them and horrible series for English cricket. And that meant that he lost the captaincy in effect. So he's got bad memories of Australia as a leader. But, liberated from that, his record's been extraordinary since giving up the captaincy. And then Brooke is the new captain, vice captain, but acting captain if needed. Hearing Key say explicitly, they simply think he is a better leader than Ollie Pope. Like they just rate him. And that's fair enough. Yep. They're entitled to have a view about their players.
Honesty. I like that they're actually prepared to say something. I don't, I'm not in the room, so I don't know, but I don't get the impression that that's necessarily the case. Like given just how casual he was in his approach to captaining the white ball teams. Oh yeah, whatevs. Yeah, team meetings, whatever. Analysis doesn't matter. Just go out there and hit the ball, lads, kind of stuff. It all seems like maybe it's front for the media, but I'm not sure how that's being a better leader than someone where Pope seems quite a considered player, but maybe that's their freewheeling style, and they want to back somebody who is like that instead of is more anxious and analytical. And
then they finally got on the plane to Australia. At least for now, touch wood.
Not yet.
Well, ready to get on the plane.
Trip over it, trying to put his suitcase on the weighing station. Jofra Archer throws his back out, and Mark Wood trips over his bag and fractures a kneecap.
Archer's not going to New Zealand, so there's no sort of niggle he's going to pick up in a limited overs game of limited interest. Mark Wood likewise isn't going there, of course not. Although with Wood, his comeback's a bit different. He's on the return from injury, but we know the last time they visited, he was the one guy whose reputation was enhanced. Gus Atkinson's unknown quantity red ball against Australia. He's played white ball against Australia, but having watched him up close, he'll be a really interesting proposition if the pitches are lively. Josh Tongue bowled superbly this season, both for England and for Nottinghamshire, who've won the championship. He's earned his spot on the plane. Bryden Cast, taller, hits the pitch, hits 90 mile an hour. And his teammate at Durham, Matty Potts, who I think in the end, Matty Potts has probably got that role that Woakes / Sam Cook were vying for. Now, Woakes we'll get to in a sec, but they want one guy who can, swing the ball around, hit the spot all day. And with the data with Matt Potts, it was always, when he played for England in 22 and 23, it was always that he never got slower through a day, through a match, through a spell. He was super consistent and he was indefatigable. So, on a hot day or in a match where it's not going England's way, the fact that they can be confident that Matt Potts will keep running in and keep doing what he's doing will be something they want. In other words, he's not the kind of guy, at least on what they've seen so far, who drops his bundle when the going gets tough, and it will in Australia at different points.
And he's a bit quicker, isn't he, than Cook and Woakes, that type of bowler. So if you can have someone to play the similar role, but with a couple of extra miles, that can make a difference at some point. So it's not surprising, I guess. Sam Cook, I assume, will be on the Lions trip, and so there'll be that option if he is playing well and if the pitches are conducive out there. The Chris Woakes bit, bloody hell, it's a brutal game. He'll have that moment, that walking out to bat with his arm in a sling and didn't end up having to face, but the that final stanza and just how much everybody talked about that story, that'll be the end. They've been very clear about that he was, they were thinking of him for this Ashes series. He won't have had enough recovery time for the injury for them to risk bringing him, so they won't do that. And then they've said after that, new Ashes cycle begins, and that's the way that England manage things in cricket. And so there's no point bringing an older player through who won't be available in 4 years' time. So that's the end of his Test career, and it's been called as abruptly and as coldly as it needs to be, perhaps, as they did with James Anderson.
Nearly 400 international wickets. Chris Woakes, player of the Ashes in 2023. It's a sad thing that he won't get to 200 Test wickets. He'll be marooned on 192. In 62 Test matches, he played a crucial hand in some memorable moments for England. I think about 2016 and the way he bowled through that summer when he was given the added responsibility. And look, he's done a really good job since Anderson was moved on. I think that was probably, when you look at it now, Woakes was never going to be plan A in Australia. They would have liked him there for his experience, and the pitches now being probably, ironically, more like the ones that Anderson, Woakes and Broad would have done better on than when they actually went to Australia.
He would have been best placed out of the two. Because, yes, he has a shit record in Australia and averages 52 and whatever, and that comes up. But I think he was a better bowler now. I think he was a better bowler in the last couple of years than he was before. I think he knew more stuff, knew more tricks, would have had more to fall back on, and he might have got a helpful pitch in Australia, which wasn't so much the case earlier.
Yeah, look, I think he probably has just tailed off a little bit. He played all 5 Test matches this English summer. He didn't look as dynamic this year as he has, but
the previous season,
you got to have a guy who can just get to the line. And he, despite having all the injuries in the world, he got to the line more often than not for England. And he'll go down as someone who is a World Cup winner in a couple of formats in the MCG in 2022, and of course, famously playing a really important role, leading that England attack with Jofra Archer in the 2019 50-over World Cup as well. So he'll be a name and a face that is well-loved, I think, in English cricket circles. And yeah, it's brutal, but he'll be 37 by the time that England play their next Test after this series. And they didn't think he was going to be quite ready to go, and they've made that decision. And Rob Key, interesting that he kind of said quite explicitly that after this Ashes cycle, we'll be thinking about the next Ashes cycle. Like, usually that's the quiet bit, right? That we all kind of know that, but no one really says it as blatantly as that. But again, Rob Key tends to say exactly what he thinks, and that's reassuring most of the time, that when you hear from him, you know he's not talking shit because he just says what he reckons, which is great. So, but yeah, I'm sad for Woakes not getting on the plane, but I can also kind of understand. You look at the group of quicks they're taking, I don't think there's anyone in that batch of 6 that would, for me anyway, be getting a game ahead of Woakes, all things being equal in Australia.
The Ashes, that's our Ashes. That's the Rob Key way. We should go to a break. We've talked Ashes through the first segment, and that is probably what we should be doing on a cricket podcast.
Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. We told you last week about the success they enjoyed in the case representing the TWU against Qantas, but super insurance has been something that we've been discussing as it relates to Maurice Blackburn all the way through 2025, and we'll keep on doing it because we learn a lot along the way, and it's obviously a really important part of the, public policy that people don't know an awful lot about, and the work that they do behind the scenes here. So an example here with one of their clients, Ron, who won an $850,000 TPD claim after holding a very difficult insurer to account. His full story is on the Maurice Blackburn blog there, and there's a video of the client story as well, which is quite moving. And yeah, like, this is again just an emblem of where they're on behalf of hardworking people taking on difficult cases, a lot of the time on a no-win, no-fee basis. Super insurance is something that a lot of people have and don't necessarily know they have, right? That's what it boils down to. That's what we've learned through this process. And it can sit there and be so difficult to access at times when you really need this insurance to be there, if for whatever reason, well, the reasons that are specified in the policy, you're unable to work due to injury or illness. So Maurice Blackburn Super Insurance, learn more by searching that. There are links in the show notes as always, and we'll keep telling you their stories through season 19. This is the end of 18. So again, just want to thank Maurice Blackburn for being a most loyal sponsor and partner to us. We've over the years had some partners who we're really proud to work with, who fully align with the values of the show, and that very much is the case with Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. Jeff,
let's have that break. Back in a sec. It is the final word. Season 18, episode 35, the last episode of season 18. Let us begin this segment by going back for the final time to the Asia Cup, the Deja Vu Cup. Every week, 3 weeks running, we've had a story about the time that India played Pakistan and things got pretty unpleasant. Well, they got even more unpleasant after the final, which was actually a good game. This is the disappointing bit, is that I did watch the final. I did enjoy it. It was good cricket. It was your classic Pakistan thing where they're great for the first half of an innings and then have problems in the second half. They ended up with a subpar score and then they had to try to defend it, and then they were right on top and 3 early wickets and then put down a catch that would have been the fourth. And on India went, you've got that next generation bit with some of those up-and-coming players coming good, with Shivam Dubey and Tilak Sharma doing the job for India. And you want to be able to talk about the cricket and enjoy what you see on the field, and then it's impossible to do at the moment with the way that politics between these two countries. Of course, they'll be present at the game, but so deliberately foregrounded so as to make it inescapable in a disappointing way.
Yeah, so they lost 9 for 33, Pakistan, and then ultimately Haris Rauf couldn't defend 10 from the final over. I mean, we haven't, all things being equal, we wouldn't take much interest in this tournament, right? It would pass us by in the same way that a lot of T20 cricket does, especially when this is a glorified bilateral series that's being played for all the obvious reasons. That drop catch in the deep that would have been the fourth wicket, I flicked over from the golf right then. I was far more committed to the Ryder Cup than I was to watching this cricket. Fair to say last night. But, I just thought, the old sledge, you just dropped the World Cup. You've just dropped the confected plastic trophy that no one cares about, no one will remember. Something like that. But no, you're right. It was clearly a really good final. And you're right to say that it will immediately be remembered for what happened after. Now, a bit of background. So Haris Rauf got fined 30% of his match fee for what happened last time, the 6-0 and the planes and so on. Surya Kumar Yadav also got fined 30% of his match fee for his comments, I think, the previous time they played.
The one about the ones that said Pakistan are shit and we'll beat them every time we play them.
I think this was
other words.
No, these were the previous comments from the first game that were, I think, political in their disposition, shall we say, around. Anyway, the guts of it is that they both copped fines. The BCCI are appealing the SKY fine, so I assume at some point that'll be overturned. But Bumrah also
quietly walked back.
Who cares? Bumrah did the plane thing as well when taking a wicket in that.
When he got Haris Rauf out, which I have no sympathy for Haris Rauf.
No,
I think what he did was shit and he shouldn't have done it, and so he kind of deserved to get whacked for 10 off the last over and lose the game just on a personal level.
Yeah, all of that. But anyway, we get to after the game, and this is the real quiz, right? What happened after the game? Moshe Naqvi, who's the boss of Pakistan cricket, a cabinet minister, and also, busy boy, the president of the Asian Cricket Council. So the etiquette here is that the president, and the plans were for the president of the organisation to hand over the trophy. And then after 90 minutes of consternation, there was no trophy handed over at all. As India, and this was relayed through the BCCI secretary later, decided not to take the trophy from Naqvi, which meant that there was no trophy handed out on the night, and it'll happen at a later date, but all quite in line with the couple of weeks of chaos.
And the medals weren't handed over either for the winners. The medals were handed over for the runners-up, but not for the winners. So the first thing I'd say in scene setting is that obviously cricket administration in both of these countries is messed up. Why do you have a Pakistan government minister who's also running the cricket board in the same way as the BCCI is effectively an arm of the BJP, which we've talked about plenty of times with Amit Shah, who's the senior government minister, and then his son, who was miraculously shot up the career ladder and ran the BCCI and now runs the ICC, right? Government is running cricket in both these countries. It's been that way in Pakistan forever. The military decides who gets to be in the government, and then the government decides who gets to run the PCB. But it's no less political in India. So the two countries run on pretty much the same basis, which is completely against the ICC's rules that say that cricket governance should be free of political government interference, national government interference. They even went so far as to suspend Sri Lanka briefly for breaches of that a couple of years ago. So once again, it's the ICC not enforcing its own regulations, which it can't do if its most powerful members are the ones who want to breach those regulations themselves, because they would have to decide to discipline themselves for breaching the regulations that they've decided to breach. This is how things work out. The situation they're in, okay, you go, sure, India are having this fight with Pakistan and there have been terrorist attacks and people have died and everybody's very upset and very angry, so they don't want to take a trophy from a government minister. He was the president of the Asian Cricket Council before this stuff happened, right? Like it was agreed that he should be put into that position with by agreement with the other members of the Asian Cricket Council, who include India. So obviously people knew ahead of time that this was going to happen. It's not like it was a sudden surprise that was sprung on them. And surely if the BCCI had wanted to negotiate something, they could have tried doing this earlier to say that if we win in the final, this is going to be a problem. What can we do about it? Maybe that did happen ahead of time, but it feels like a bit of brinksmanship, and it feels like Naqvi is the kind of person to say, fuck you, I'm going to insist on my right to do it, and if you're not prepared to take the trophy from me, then you'll have to figure out another way to do it.
Yeah,
so it's embarrassing all round.
And you remember, there is form with this. Was it the 2015 Men's World Cup when the president was from, would I be right in saying Bangladesh possibly,
Yes.
and wanted to get up on stage, and then Srini, who was running the ICC or BCCI, one or the other, same thing, at the time, insisted that he was going to do the trophy. So, like, trophy prezos historically a little bit chaotic, right?
Yeah.
Around these types of things, but
right.
And
but tell me, I mean, there's Modi at the 2023 World Cup. Tell me if Pakistan make the final of the T20 World Cup next year, is Modi going to be on stage handing them the trophy?
No,
I doubt
of course
it.
not. Of course not.
Right.
But
so,
yeah, I mean, look, I think that to an extent this was for effect as well. Like, this was to emphasise, like, yes, brinkmanship, you're right, but this could have been tidied up. And there was a decision made to let this drag out for 90 minutes. I think this was a bit for effect, to just demonstrate, no, we are not going to take this trophy from this man, kind of vibes, right?
Yes.
Because that'll mean that we can have the last word, the last of last words. And then SKY in the press conference.
He's the president of the association. He shouldn't be. Like, I fully agree that he should not be. You know, government minister shouldn't be the president of the Asian Cricket Council, but the Asian Cricket Council agreed to install him, right? So this was not news. And then the way that those that from the BCCI side, they've tried to justify it. So the secretary saying, oh, we decided not to take the trophy from him, but that does not mean that the gentleman will take away the trophy with him along with the medals. So it is very unfortunate. And we hope that the trophy and the medals will be returned to India as soon as possible. They say they're going to lodge a protest against him at the next ICC meeting. My dude, it was your choice. You chose not to take it. Like, don't try to cast yourself as a put upon victim here. That's nonsense.
Yeah, and Surya Kumar Yadav did something very similar in his press conference. You know, kind of
right.
Oh, but we should have been given the trophy. Like, yeah, but you've made the decision not to take the trophy home with you. And then the Pakistan captain Salman Agha's had a fairly big crack in response to that.
I thought he was good. So I just found the quote here. The SKY one. I think this is one thing which I've never seen since I started playing cricket, that a champion team is denied a trophy. You weren't denied it. You chose not to accept it. That's up to you, buddy. And I thought Salman Agha was actually really strong, the Pakistan captain. Instead of jumping in and really laying into things, he tried to put things in context. He said, what India have done in this tournament is very disappointing. They're not disrespecting us by not shaking hands. They're disrespecting cricket. Good teams don't do what they did today. I don't want to use harsh words, but they've been very disrespectful. I'm not just a Pakistan captain. I'm a cricket fan. If a kid watching in India or Pakistan, if a kid is watching in India or Pakistan, we're not sending them a good message. People think of us as role models, but if we're behaving like this, we're not inspiring them. And that's what you want to pull back to, where, of course, things are politically fraught. We know that. We understand that. And like I've said before, if you're choosing to play each other, you've got to at least respect each other as players on the field. And all the administration and the ceremonies and all of that stuff is kind of nonsense to begin with, I think. But if you've agreed to have it, you've agreed to play the tournament, then you've got to agree to the norms of the tournament, even if norms are not applying elsewhere outside the field. You've got to, at least on the field, be willing to live by the expectations of the game that you've agreed to play.
And I think this is where it moves to, right? So, the women play this Sunday in Colombo. India play Pakistan. Like, well, does this all just transfer through to the next global tournament? You know, the nature of cricket these days is one round the corner, literally next Sunday.
They'll feel under pressure too, I'm sure. The Indian team will feel the pressure to back up the men's team by doing the same thing.
So in other words, will there be no handshakes? Will there be, I don't know, no presentation after the game, whatever it is? So there's that to come up. But, as one of our listeners, Pritam Kumar Sinha, put to us on social media, like, is this the end of India's men playing Pakistan men in the short term? Like, probably not, because the T20 World Cup next year, the commercial imperative of them playing, everybody understands that. So, no, I don't think it's a case of them not playing as such, but it just feels like this will carry now from match to match, and there'll be this whole other expectation that it'll be a bit of a circus, and everyone will get what they need out of it with the posturing domestically, with the politics and so on. And the collateral damage will be, as Salman Agha touched on there, it's the kids who are looking for inspiration and wanting to play the game. And, you don't want to get too much, somebody think of the children. Obviously, it's a big, bad world out there. But still, that's not an unreasonable point here that, and you said it well there before, that until this point, there's been a base level of respect that's been exchanged between the 22 on the field. And that's where this has moved quite clearly in the last 3 weekends.
Yep. So things are moving on in other areas of the politics behind Indian cricket as well. We've got a new BCCI president, Mithun Manas, will take this over, who was working on administration in Delhi. Did play for India, but a much lower profile player. There was sort of mutterings and mumblings that Sourav Ganguly might come back to the job, or that Harbhajan Singh might run for the job. In the end, it's been the practice for quite a while now with the BCCI. The office holders are always elected unopposed. They basically work out the numbers, run the numbers in the caucus before they put anybody up, and then they put up the one person who they know is going to win.
It's like the glory days of the Victorian ALP. Who needs elections? We'll sort of that before. We'll do a deal. We'll do a deal across, a global deal across the 37 constituencies for an internal Labor Party election to make sure that we can have as few elections as actually possible. There you go. That's coming up right now, actually, FEA elections. Anyway, good luck to those participating. But no, that's right. Elected unopposed. And I would just say that watch this space, position of influence. We know the president of the BCCI has enormous clout. Well, how will, incoming now to this role, how will Manhas interpret what's coming up as it relates to the Pakistani women as soon as next week? Like, how will he try and put his spin on all of this? Or will he be in line with, I suppose it's not just him, isn't it? Of course, he and Jay Shah will have a relationship as well.
I would say position of influence, but also a position to be influenced, that may not be much of his own opinions.
India's men play before that, actually. They go straight from the Asia Cup into a test series that starts on the 2nd of October. So what's that, three days from now? They're playing the West Indies in their first 2 test matches at home of their home summer. One's at Ahmedabad, followed by Delhi for the second one. Poor old Karan Nair has been dropped out, boys. Been dropped again. Sorry to say that. Ravindra Jadeja is going to be Shubman Gill's vice captain, which I quite like that. Player of experience. It guarantees he'll play in each game, which is good. Rishabh Pant's still injured. Bumrah's picked, so I don't know whether that means he'll play both or whether they'll be careful. Probably careful would be my suspicion. Maybe play one and not the other.
Straight after the Asia Cup,
Yeah, and all of that, all the usual suspects. And a number of guys who played in that Australia A, India A series that has just finished, including Devdutt Padikkal, Dhruv Jurel, who captained India A. So yes, KL Rahul, who made runs, big 100 against Australia, which we'll come to in a little bit. But we'll keep an eye on that test series as it relates to the World Test Championship and everything else in the show next week.
Why don't we come to it now? Because that was an absolutely bonkers match, this second A game. So Australia made 420, blaze up, in the first innings. Sam Constas, 49. McSweeney did well, made 74. Jack Edwards, 88. Hot Toddy, what's going on here? Todd Murphy, 76. So,
I think he was batting at 10 or 11. I looked at the card when it was going on. I'm like, here we go. I suppose that's what happens when you're in the national system for a while. Like when you're in that, and bearing in mind, he's been a very, very
he had a reputation as a good bat even when he debuted in tests.
Yeah, but you often see this with young players who are in the national system, primarily as a bowler, when they go one level down again, and I suppose it's half a level down, that they are much better batters than when they arrived. So yeah, I'm not entirely surprised to see that.
Right. So it was a huge mismatch on the first innings. Australia 420, India shot out for 194. Nobody made any runs except for Be Still Your Beating Hearts, the final words owned Sai Sudarshan.
Our guy Sai.
Who didn't do so well in the test series recently, but has got some runs here. So a couple of wickets for Murphy, 4 for Henry Thornton. Huge lead. Then Australia A get done cheaply the second time, out for 185, of which most of the runs are made by McSweeney again. So 85 to follow on from 74. Good stats for him. Cruel Intentions, Ryan Phillippe makes 50. No one else makes any runs. Cooper Connolly, bad match, Norton 1. And that should still be enough, right? They've set them 412.
Well, it's a classic first innings, fourth innings, but it's the reverse of what you normally get with these. Normally, first innings, fourth innings, are when the first innings is about 200, then about 400, 400, 200. That's kind of your classic model. This is a flip on that where it's 420, 194, 185, and then, a target of 412 for India A. And they go to work. I suppose when you got KL Rahul coming in at 3 in an A game, you'd anticipate him being a class above. But 176 not out, batted early, retired hurt, came back, did the job. Aus A, who's still in that test squad, by the way, for the Windies, got an even 100. Juve Durrell, half century. Nitish Kumar already there at the end. All these guys who are clearly test cricketers, who they saw Australia off. Todd got 3. And Corey Rocacholi got a couple, but no one else from like the 9 Australian bowlers used in trying to defend 412. So an excellent game of cricket. India A winning the series, therefore 1-0 because the first game was a draw, and they play now 350 over games beginning on Tuesday.
Yes. So which will probably be less exciting, but a hell of a contest, hell of a first-class game to run down. 400 in the last innings, which we agreed, enjoyed, appreciated the effort that went into it.
And just to note that the Australian senior team, the men's team, are also playing this week. They've got that really funny T20 series that's played 3 games in 4 days. What a great weekend on the piss they are going to have in New Zealand. Mount Maunganui.
Time-honoured Chapel Hadley Trophy that will be played in the first 4 days of October.
They're going to have so much fun over there. They're playing on the 1st, the 3rd, and the 4th. There's some really likely types on that trip. I look through the squad. There's some fun lads there. They're going to have some fun, but they're going to play 3 games of cricket as well. It reminds me of like tours that I go on. You go away for 4 days and play 3 games, and you have 3 massive nights. I'm not saying they'll have 3 massive nights, but they'll find time for at least one.
Number one.
Carey's on that trip. Speaking of Ashes, guys, right? Like, that New Zealand trip that England are going on. So Jacob Bethel is in that group. So is Harry Brook captaining it. So is Bryden Cass. I wouldn't be taking Bryden Cass to a trip.
A white ball series. No, when you pretty much want him to be a workhorse, right? Like he's supposed to play 4, maybe 5 tests. 3
to 4, bang it in. Bang it in all day long if they need to do the bang it in thing. Well, Australia are taking Hazelwood on this trip. I'm not saying that like it would be disingenuous to say that fast bowlers shouldn't bowl, but I'm interested to see that Hazelwood's there. Carey.
I think 7 weeks out from an Ashes series, he can play 3 T20s.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure that's the case. He'll be playing other games between now and then, I'd imagine. Alex Carey, Travis Head, they'll have some fun. And then Mitch Marsh's team, he'll have some fun. Sean Abbott and Marsh will be the other 2 who could conceivably end up in the Ashes squad, I would say. I'm not saying that Marsh will get back in the 11, but I can easily see a world where all of those fast bowlers who've been picked for England, that stacks the dice in favour of Mitch Marsh getting another look in, because we know statistically Mitch Marsh has got a really good record against bowling that's quicker than 140 kilometres an hour. And all of those England bowlers, with Potts maybe the slight exception, do regularly end up in the 140s or above. So that's interesting there for him personally. And then, Sean Abbott, if Cummins isn't right, he'll be there and thereabouts with a group of others who are pushing for selection in the early rounds of the Sheffield Shield.
And in Perth, if you wanted Mitch Marsh to play any one match in that Ashes series, it would be in Perth against the fastest bowlers.
Not crazy. It's not a crazy proposition that they might go, right, we're just going to horses for courses. They did a bit of that with Marsh a long time ago, but in 2017. He'd need to start the Shield season well, which, by the way, begins next week as well. Just to round out Australian domestic cricket while we're here, there were a couple of Mercantile Mutual Cup games played over the weekend. The only thing I want to note out of all of that, if Stark had any issues, midnight in Joel Paris, match-winning 5 for WA to win a game against South Australia, and a 3 for the game before that. Had a great Shield season, number of great Shield seasons on the trot. He averages like 20 with the ball at domestic level. He's a veteran now. Like, by that, I mean he's like 32, 33. I wouldn't rule him out because Spencer Johnson isn't going to be your next left armour in this series owing to his own injuries that he's taking into the season. If Paris is there bowling well, only in the scenario where they need to manage Stark and if they want a left arm option, just throwing that out there as you get away with on the 29th of September. I can see a world where Paris could make a test debut this summer. Again, you heard it here first.
Well, you said no more Australian domestic cricket, but there is one more story, which is Ashwin is coming. Yes, he's signed up with Sydney Thunder. He's going to be in lime green in the harbour city, not the city where we thought he should have ended up, but he'll do his job there nonetheless. This is going to be interesting. We speculated about it for a few weeks. He's stated desire to get on the T20 circuit, so he's going to go to the Dubai one, the Abu Dhabi one, the desert league. I don't know who he's playing for there, but is he a Desert Vipers guy, or is he? I don't remember any of the names of any of the other teams in that competition. That's all I can come up with.
They're the ones that add us to the press release list. The Desert Vipers.
Yes, I get a lot of press releases about.
Yeah, that's guys. The only team I know, though. All the others they're there somewhere or another. Yeah, you're right. He's not getting to Australia till the 5th of January in order to play IL20, but that's the deal that CA were very happy to do. Sounds like Todd Greenberg was instrumental in all of that. And yeah, interesting yarn in the paper today. Tommy Decent, mate of the show, like they're already kind of mindful of security. Olympic Park's the home of the Thunder, and it's quite open. And we saw what happened when India trained at Adelaide Oval last year. That was a circus. So they're going to have to be like on that because, I mean, gone are the days of Indian players having that degree of anonymity when in Australia. Maybe they can manage it a little bit, but if he were training, let's say at Olympic Park,
depends which city too. You know, if you were playing for Perth, you might be able to do it, but Sydney or Melbourne, no.
Probably more like a cultural thing where Indian players are so used to being fair game for the public whenever they're in the public eye amongst very passionate Indian fans. So we'll keep an eye on that one. It might be the case that he has personal security per the story in the SMH. But really the story, we shouldn't be too surprised, Jeff, does centre around Bharat a little bit. And he has sent us a dispatch. I'm going to level with you here. Bharat sent me 10 minutes. We've got 5 minutes till the next break. So let's edit it back. Here's 5 minutes of Bharat Sundaresan on how Ashwin ended up at the Thunder and his own peripheral, but central at the same time, involvement in it.
So this isn't quite Bretto from the box. This is Baza from the dog park. Timing is everything in life. And this Ashwin BBL story is all about good timing. Because if you think about it, the report comes out, the one that's recommended that Cricket Australia contemplate private investment for the BBL. And within 3 weeks, Ashwin announces his retirement from the IPL and says he wants to become an explorer of the T20 world. Todd Greenberg, full credit to him. He took initiative and then he reached out to Ashwin and his agents. I wouldn't take credit for having finalized any deal. I was just basically the sounding board for Ashwin, explaining to Ashwin how the BBL model works and how there is no private investment. And if this deal were to come through, who will pay for him and how much potentially he could end up making. For Ashwin, it was about he wants to pursue coaching interests, but also wants to grow his YouTube platform. After a few weeks of back and forth, once it became public mainly, from what I gather, Brisbane Heat and Perth Scorchers were the only ones not to reach out. In that back and forth is when Trent Copeland really emerged as a hero. He developed a really good rapport with Ashwin, and Ashwin was really impressed with Copeland's professionalism and his diligence in following up and just their discussions. Pretty obvious from the beginning that it'll either be a Melbourne club or a Sydney club, like you guys reported as well. And the Sydney Thunder started emerging as a front runner, even though initially, I think most people are convinced that it'll be the Melbourne Stars. Even Maxi was, when I met him in Brisbane a few weeks ago. Ashwin's going to play at least 3 league games. He finishes IL T20. First game will be on the 10th. He gets 2 home games and possibly for the finals. But I think the bigger thing is there'll be an extension to the deal. And next year, there is every possibility that he plays at least a major chunk of it and for Thunder. And the major point, and I spoke to Todd Greenberg about this as well, that this kind of becomes a segue for them to head to private investment, right? Like today it's Ashwin, but tomorrow if even the possibility that a high-profile Indian cricketer is ready to come and dip his toes in the BBL could very easily sway investors to come on to the scene and see what they can do or they want to do with the BBL. You never know. Virat Kohli lives in London. Tomorrow, once he's done with RCB, and if he does want to continue and play one season of cricket in Australia, if this Ashwin thing works out, why not, right? And the same with whoever, right? Rohit, or tomorrow it could be Hardik. I think they'll be looking for these kinds of cricketers to start with anyway, the high-profile retired cricketers. So the other thing is, I think Trent Copeland is very keen on the fact that because they want to grow or tap into that whole Western Sydney market and Northern Sydney market, which has a lot of South Asian expats, his role will go beyond just what he does on the field. And that's where, again, I've been a sounding board to explain to him what kind of roles he could play off the field, and there could be business interests for him as well. So I think it's a win-win-win for all parties concerned, and I am really looking forward to it. There you go. Baza from the dog park.
All right, we'll quickly pick this up before we go to the break. I like a bit of postscript from Brad as well that he and Ashwin were laughing about the fact that Ashwin and Snoop Dogg were the two trending names on social media in Australia during grand final week, which Ashwin apparently quite enjoyed.
Well,
Jeff,
fucking hell, both of them could have played for Geelong and it wouldn't have gone any worse.
They would have got more of the footy than Bailey Smith. Right. We
got 29 touches, but I don't think any of them were actually to anybody.
Gosh, he got 29 stats.
Yeah.
I'm staggered by that.
I didn't recall a single one actually finding a teammate.
Right. Yeah. When he was anyway, let's not talk.
There were a lot of handballs into another player in the middle of a pack that ricocheted somewhere.
When he was running. Anyway, that's enough footy for today. We better take a break. Then we'll have a palate cleanser. We're going to go and talk about Nepal. Tis the final word. It's me and him. And Nepal have done lots of interesting things in the last few years. They've played in World Cups. They've packed out stadiums at home. They've had really interesting series with other associate nations. But it's their first ever bilateral series against a full member, which is noteworthy. And they've only gone and beat the West Indies in the first match of it, a 3-match T20 series in Sharjah. Doubt Danny Morrison was there. He was probably doing the Asia Cup. But Sharjah saw Nepal make 148 for 8 and the Windies made 129 for 9. And yeah, they've beaten Afghanistan before, but that was back when Afghanistan were an associate member. So, these are all little noteworthy steps on the way for Nepal cricket. They're clearly a country with ambition. Unlike Scotland, Nepal talk about wanting to play Test cricket. Australians say they want to have a seat, not only at the top table and get to hang out at Lords and get to those fun things or you get to do or Dubai or whatever as a full but they want to play Test cricket. They want to open that opportunity up to their players. And, these are the fun bits of the game. We get so bogged down in the shit bits, but Barat was reporting on the weekend as well that Italy, New Zealand, and Ireland might be playing in a tri-series next year. Like, how cool would that be? Italy, Ireland, and New Zealand. Sounds like the start of a bad joke. But it'll be
amazing, fun countries, and New Zealand.
Well, credit to New Zealand for being open to it.
Yeah.
And just on Nepal, they're in the Asian quali next week, which is going to be absolutely massive with the way that tournament's set up. Samoa, Ross Taylor Samoa are in that comp as well. So that's from the 8th to the 17th in Oman. So we will keep you abreast of what happens there, and hopefully they make it to consecutive World Cups in the T20 format.
Yes, and in that world of the next rank of cricket, USA cricket got suspended again. They're like the worst kid at your high school, the one who you go, you hear Damien got suspended again? Yeah, not surprised. What's that, 7 times this year? Yes, USA cricket have been suspended by the ICC, who has been threatening to suspend them for about a year. Every 3 months or so, they've been given another 3 months. Yeah. Finally, those 3 months have run out. So the ICC is going to take over administration, which is they're the what's the name of that joint that took over Ansett after they went under?
I don't remember, but I appreciate the comparison.
They've been on the way down for years. The what do you call them? Not the executors. That's a will. But
when they're in administration, let's have a look who took over. The Tesna Consortium. Oh, no, they were the creditors who allowed...
who wanted the cash back.
Yeah, that was Solomon Lew, wasn't it? Anyway.
I can't remember who. The name was famous at the time. Anyway, that's what the ICC are doing, which means that the USA team can still participate in tournaments, which they need to be able to because they're in the 2026 World Cup, the T20 one, on the basis of having made it to the Super 8s last time. And they've also got to be in the Olympics because they're the host, but they can't be in the Olympics if they don't have a functional internal government.
And there's one other layer to this. They need to be officially a national governing body and get that status. Now, I don't know how you get that status, but they ain't got it. And they were given 12 months to get it, and they still ain't got it. They've missed deadline after deadline after deadline. The editor's
Does that come from government or these IOC?
No. ICC said you got a year to get your shit together, but they've got to get it in with the IOC. With the American Olympic Committee. This is to do with the American. So they need to get.
But it's not federally government linked, because if you're trying to get something from the federal government in the US, you'd probably have to bribe them. Like you'll probably have to pay them off $100 million or something.
Well, they might have the skills to pay the bills on that front. USA cricket, who's to know? Given how often they've been suspended, but
historically, strong historical form lines.
There is, so there are, I would say, peripherally Olympic ramifications, but you would assume that the ICC will have the skill set to tidy that up. And here we go again. Yes. Gosh, did you watch any of the golf? Did you catch any of the clip? Oh, no, of course you
that's
didn't.
the most redundant question.
Of course you didn't. My God, check out some of the clips. It just kind of,
tell me.
How did they run the world for 100 years? Just what the crowd and it was a very Trumpian crowd was the sense I got.
US were hosting, right?
Yeah, it was in New York, and it was just feral, and it was just magnificent when Shane Lowry drained that putt on 18 last night. I think like about 10 of my WhatsApp groups were blowing up at the same time.
It was Europe. So Europe beat the USA at the last minute.
Well, they were well ahead, and they it was squeaky bum stuff. The USA were coming home with the wet sail in the singles on the final day, and like Europe needed to just sort of nudge over the line, and they did basically just nudge over the line. But it was super tense, and the viewing figures would have been through the roof. It would have been akin to a major, probably more than a major. So it was exciting. But yeah, like the crowds.
I read something about crowds like screaming at players so much that they couldn't take their shots.
Rory McIlroy at the end on the Saturday just screaming to the crowd, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you" to people. It was very, very good. It was great colour and movement after he and Lowry won the pet. So yeah, it was a fun weekend of watching on the telly. But yeah, Christ, America, fuck. I know you spend more time there than I do these days, but I just can't believe I recommend our patron Patrick Hargraves wrote a really fun Substack about Australian politics and how it's affected by American politics, which is I tweeted it out the other day and might have put it on Instagram. It's worth a read just if you're into that kind of polemic. It's fun. It's fun.
They're trying.
It's aggressive.
I mean, there are definitely people in Australia trying to make it happen. Thankfully, at least for now, we still have enough of a national fuckwit detector that goes off for enough people, and the compulsory voting bit helps that. This
is one of the
it dilutes it dilutes the power, the possibility for really extremist positions to get enough support.
Yeah, punters have got a bullshit radar, but the algorithm doesn't. So you just get force fed this shit day after day, and these American debates and American figures and American conversations, and you see it even in the way that sport is, the way that we feel like we need to defer to every other American idea. The grand final subject to part of that. Songs after the goals and all that the other day. We culturally, anyway, this is probably a conversation for another podcast. Yeah. We've still got stuff to get through. It's about cricket.
Somebody's trying to be Stephen A. Smith in Australia, and it's probably not going to work.
The county championship, that's a different vibe. It finished up this week, sort of.
Okay.
It was finished on Saturday. It was an interesting final round, Jeff, because Notts didn't need to do much to win it, but you still got to get it done. A bit like Europe, yes, you still got to get the job done. You still got to get your necessary points, and they did it.
Like I said, Arthur Carr, 1927.
Indeed.
David Glamorgan lose by an innings. It can happen.
Well said, well remembered, and yeah, they did get it done. They ended up having a very convincing 3-day win, and good on them for it. Love the fact that Hasiba Mead made 100 to get 2 of the 3 batting points. The 2 batting points plus the draw, wasn't it? Either way, Hamid 100. Fitting. Read Ben Gardner's piece on Wisdom, which is very good about the Hamid story and the 10 years of him having been present since making his test debut, and how Peter Moore's there at Notts. Good on Peter Moore's again, winning the county championship for the 3rd time. He's had a couple of cracks as England coach, and it's not worked on either occasion. But you look at the influence that he's had on domestic cricket. So congratulations to that leadership axis. But Hasiba Mead, 28 years of age, and he's completely different as a player now in terms of his strike rate and that type of thing. Maybe he is next cab off the rank. I'm not sure. I suppose the Ashes will dictate that. Our very own Kyle Abbott won the County Player of the Year for Hampshire, who are staying up because Durham are going down. This is an extraordinary capitulation, Jeff. So Hampshire on Saturday morning got rolled by 20 runs by Surrey, chasing 180. And like, fuck, Hampshire are going down when they can't chase 180 on the final day. They deserve to go down, right? You kind of feel like if you can't finish the job in that situation. And then Durham up at Headingley, 2 sessions to bat, resold for 85. They're going down.
Christ.
So Hampshire skiddled, Durham skiddled for even fewer, and because of that loss, they are going down with Worcestershire. So complete debacle. In the Surrey-Hampshire game, Rafi Albert, who's a 17-year-old on debut, made 63, picked up a couple of wickets, but then Rahul Chahar, who was signed to bowl spin for Surrey at the end of the season, picked up an 8 to defend that 180. So, yeah, it really looks like it was Hampshire going down, but they've managed to hang on by the skin of their teeth. Other games in Division 1, Essex beat Somerset by 7 wickets in a pretty good game. Sussex beat Worcestershire in a beauty where they nearly botched it chasing 63. At one stage, though, I think they were 55 for 7, and you're like, fuck, they're gonna win this, Worcestershire, but not quite. Sussex got it done. Ollie Robb had a good game. The bad Ollie Robb had a good game.
Yeah.
But he bowled beautifully, and I can see a world where he gets another chance as an international cricketer. Another 100 for John Simpson, whose record at Sussex since moving there is extraordinary. As club captain, he makes more than 1,000 runs in the season for the second year on the trot. Then in Division 2, Leicestershire sign off as champions with a 167-run win against Northants. Stevie Eskenazi, who's been there on loan, 155, and Liam Travascus, who used to play for Durham, picked up a 6 for. Lancashire beat Glamorgan at Cardiff for the first time since 1981 on the final day, which, that's a long time. So Lancs finish on a high note.
It's a long time to not beat Glamorgan, who've been not very good for a lot of that time.
Yeah, and I suppose Lancs have been in Division 1 for much of that too, but still, it's a long time not to beat a team at a certain ground. Derbyshire had a massive win by an innings and plenty over Kent. They were just 5 measly points off promotion. Next year for Derbyshire, they're my bet for next year. They've played so well this year. They've been so hard to beat. Finishing on a high note there with Mickey Arthur. I like to think that Derbyshire will be there and thereabouts in 2026. Middlesex also won by an innings. That was at Lords. Lewis deployed 263 not out. What a great way to finish the season, having moved, of course, from Derbyshire a couple of years ago. And Sebastian Morgan, 18-year-old, playing his third game of professional cricket, batting at number 10, got 97 batting with deploy. So he nearly got 100 in his third game as a
batting at 10.
And he only turned 18 like a week ago as well. So, seems like a shrewd a shrewd selection getting him in.
That's some real Ashwin shit.
Yeah, it was.
Teenage career.
So you run through it. Notts win the championship by 16 points over Surrey, then Somerset, Sussex, Warwickshire. Mentioned that Durham and Worcestershire go down. Division 2, which was already locked up with Leicestershire winning comfortably. They put a gap in them. 241 points going up as champions. Some 48 points ahead of Glamorgan, who finished second, and then 5 points to Derbyshire. And all the way down the bottom for those who are doing the Melbourne Cup sweep, who finished last? Kent finished last comfortably as well. So they were only in Division 1 a few years ago now. So that's a big blow for Kent. However, they have signed Sam Northeast, who's returning back to his home county. Glamorgan gave him a lovely send-off this week, which was really nice, that they acknowledged that, he's going home, but 4 great seasons, got them promoted, set some incredible records, the quadruple 100, a triple 100 as well at Lords. So well played, Sam Northeast, and best of luck for 2026 for him. And then, Jeff, we've also had...
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's the championship. But, I mean, I felt uneasy about them making a decision about the configuration of next year's competition in, like, the last week of September. In a way, I'm glad that nothing major has changed. Indeed, nothing's changed. So a reminder, there was the 13-game model that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, which would have split Division 1 into 2 groups of 6, a Division 2 of 6, and in the wash, it would have meant 13 games per team. But they needed 12 out of 18 for a super majority of first-class counties to get it up. They didn't get it up, so the blast changes have been successful. The championship will remain as it is. It doesn't preclude them from working on something else, though. Like, people have said, well, that's it then. We're going to have this model forever. Well, not really. That just means you can go back to the drawing board and look at other models that might be more suitable. It might well be that the Surrey model of having 8 teams in Division 1 and having them play each other in home and away for 14 games, where they had it that way in 2017 and 2018. Maybe that's where they end up out of all of this.
I just don't think you're going to get votes from teams that are likely to be lower ranked. They want to be in the top division.
True.
So if you can't get them to agree to an expanded top division, you're not going to get them to agree to a smaller one.
Fair enough. And it did cause a bit of a blow up. Like, I saw the PCA were out there in the media after this. That, like, they're pretty punchy here. Like, I know the PCA have said they want to have 12 games in the championship and have less cricket for their players. I mean, of course they do. They're working on behalf of,
right. But it's not going to happen. As soon as you agree to 12 in the championship, then that extra space will be used for white ball cricket.
Well, probably, even though the blast has been reduced, but nevertheless, the PCA's position.
The 100 will get bigger. And
right. Yeah. Well, yes, that's true. That's the cynical and fair view on this. But
they'll add a couple more teams quick enough so they can sell them, and then they'll start expanding the number of games.
But Daryl Mitchell, who's a man of integrity, former Worcestershire captain and long-term leader there, who runs the PCA these days, he's quite right. He says himself they're a union, and they're advocating for less work for same pay. Like, of course, that's perfectly reasonable for a union to be in a position where they want to bargain in that way. And from the player's perspective, who wouldn't want a couple of extra weekends where they're not playing, presumably in spring, in that 8-week back-to-back time? I mean, it's a great time to have a big weekend and have some fun on a spring Friday, Saturday, when you're not meant to be playing cricket the next day. But, I do, at the same time, I do laugh a little bit when you hear professional cricketers talking about industrial action. I don't think, unless it was in their own industry, very well educated, very, very well heeled professional players, which the vast majority of them are, as we know from the.
There's not a lot of pro cricketers coming out of the coal mines anymore.
No, quite. Yeah, that's what I'm subtly saying here. I don't think they'd be talking about,
If the train's not running on their way to the game because the drivers are on strike, they're probably less complimentary. They're probably not singing Solidarity Forever with, arm in arm with the train crews.
And I think it's just worth noting for the record here, and I know I'm speaking through a Surrey lens because I work there, but like Surrey's players, 31 of them voted unanimously to retain the 14-game season. So when they talk of WhatsApp groups of PCA, I'm not disputing that that's true, but like there are a variety of opinions on this. There isn't like one universal view that the county season should be shortened. And what it boils down to, it won't be. Next year, it won't be, at least, as the competition rolls around again in that familiar form. Jeff, I reckon we might have gotten through our entire agenda for today.
I think we're done. I think we've knocked that one out of the park. It feels good. It feels good. It's a nice morning here. What is it? Is it spring? It is spring. It is. Is it? No, it's autumn.
No,
it's
autumn. It's very, very autumn.
It's the other end of the. I can't tell my left from my right either. And I can't. If I think about east and west, I have to close my eyes and visualize the compass and where the letters are. And
I do the I do the
was.
map of Australia. I close my eyes and think about where's Perth, where's Melbourne. I do it that way.
Yep.
And the same applies even now with like north, south, east, west. If I'm like, where am I? I'm south, am I? So that would mean Perth would be that way. And I'm 41.
You've got to
I'm
point
still doing
fingers.
these things.
But some of us will never get a handle on these things, and that's okay. We have different strengths, different abilities. If you would like to use your strengths to support The Final Word, please do. Patreon.com/The Final Word. That's spelled Patreon. Become part of things. We've got a whole tour of people coming from the UK to Australia for the Ashes. They'll be travelling around to different cities. They'll be joining up, having meetups with Australian listeners. It's like one of the few places where we have accordance, we have peace between the two camps, where English cricket enthusiasts will be visiting Australian cricket enthusiasts by choice, spending time with them by choice during the Ashes. That's all happening. We'll have a Final Word match happening in Melbourne in December, hopefully, and also in Sydney on it's not going to be on the public holiday. I can make this announcement now. We've secured the ground for January 25th, which is the Sunday, because the local council wouldn't give it to us for the public holiday itself. But I think that works well because it means that it'll be in the middle of the long weekend, which means more chance of festivities and revelry after the game.
Well, I can do our show admin with you live as well and say that our Melbourne game is the Sunday, the 14th of December.
Beautiful.
We've had those conversations with the Reds, and that will be Reggie, their captain, agreed to that date, which is terrific. So, and I've changed my flight to the 15th to Adelaide, so I've pushed it back in order to make sure that I can play on that day with you wearing the baggy gold. Last thing, given we finished a bit early, I'm wearing the Tabs hoodie today. If you're still listening, you might be the sort of person who is inclined to run a marathon or a half marathon or a 10K. I'm just going to seed it here. We're doing it next May. That's happening. May bank holiday weekend at the end of the month, so May the 25th, 26th, something like that. What we want is new blood. We want people who've gone before, totally. It's the best Final Word weekend. It's an amazing thing to do. Can't rave about it more for all the reasons that you would have heard about on the show in the past. But if you've never done it, this is the time to get in touch with me. We can get your nomination form processed very quickly. Adam@finalwordcricket.com. We would love to have like 20 new runners because, variety is the spice of life. And we want to make sure that we keep opening up these opportunities to as many listeners as we can. So Adam@finalwordcricket.com will get you involved, and we'll get you up to Edinburgh next year. And it will be, once again, a lovely weekend with all money going to the mighty Lord's Taverners. Jeff, it's been the end. This is the last episode of season 18. What an absolute joy to bring all to you on behalf of Maurice Blackburn Lawyers, Australia's #1 plaintiff law firm. Adam@finalwordcricket.com if you want to get involved commercially with us in season 19, like Lacuna Sports have done. And the next show we bring to you will be the first of the Women's World Cup. You and me, Jeff. We're going to lead it off tomorrow. On Tuesday afternoon, we'll get into our stride and we'll do our thing, and then the rest of the cast will get involved as well. Have I missed anything? Are we ready to
Don't think so. Don't think so. Thanks, Maury Bees. And World Cup, it's here for the next 30 something days. That is what we will be doing. We hope to have your company for as much of that time as you wish to be there. This has been The Final Word. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, we love you very, very much. See you later.
Bye.